Woohoo! We are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Birdland Network. Good to have everybody in here. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late, but we're back. We're here. We're better than ever. It is a Monday. It is All-Star break time. Of course, the Home Run Derby is tonight. Tomorrow is the actual All-Star game. Lots to talk about in reference to that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about everything going on. First half analysis of the Orioles. Second half predictions. We're going to go over a lot of different things. Good to have all of you in here. Hope everybody's having a good start to their week. We have Victor's in here. What's up, Victor? Good to see you. And Melissa's in here. And Ariel, I think, is here. Of course, Ariel, I can't see you as usual for some reason. But I will try to pull this up and so that I can see Ariel. What's up, Ariel? Good to see you as well, Ariel Barbosa. Daniel Berry is here as well. And, we're going to talk about a few different things today. We'll talk about the Orioles, their first half. We'll kind of get into what we thought of the first half, that last series against the Yankees. We're going to get into that. Hey, John. John's here as well, AB. Good to see John. So we'll have a lot to talk about in those with those things. And then I'll get into a little bit about predictions for the second half of with the Orioles. And I don't know, kind of maybe, I don't want to get into major predictions when it comes to trade deadline and things of that nature, because it's really hard to predict stuff like that. Guys you think that are available may not be available. Guys that are available, you may not have thought were going to be available. So there's a lot of different things that go into that. But let's kind of talk a little bit about the first half for the Orioles. You know, it was an up and down first half. For as well as they started, you know, they didn't have quite the same first half they had last year. You know, last year in the first half they won 10 in a row. Of course, they didn't lose a series. They didn't get swept the whole first half of last year. Actually, didn't get swept at all last year. You know, they had so many things go right last year. It's been a little bit different this year, but let's kind of talk about where they were this point last year compared to where they are this year. So this year right now, after 96 games, because that's how many games they played, even though it's the All-Star break now, we are technically past the halfway point. 96 games in, the Orioles are 58-38. Well, last year at this time, they were 59-37. So they're very close to where they were last year. They're one game off. And I think last year at this time, they weren't in first place yet. I think Tampa was still holding the lead. But the Orioles are in first place this year with a one-game lead over the Yankees. So, you know, overall, they've had some down parts, you know, to this first half of the season. Obviously, we can talk about, you know, getting swept by St. Louis earlier in the year on a team that was under 500, getting swept by the Cubs just this last homestand against a team that's not good at all, and the Cubs, and the Cubs only gave up 2 runs in 3 games, you know, and then of course they got swept by Houston a little bit earlier in the season. So they've had some sweeps come on that they didn't have earlier at all last year and earlier this year. But, you know, that being said, those types of things are going to happen. But, you know, when you think about it as a whole and where the Orioles are, there's a lot of different things I'm looking at this year. And maybe it's because when I look at it, you know, actually I'm going to leave this up there. When I look at it, maybe it's because my expectations of this team are higher than the expectations I had for them last year. And maybe that's why I have more disappointments than I probably thought should. Mark Langenkamp, welcome in. And Jeff Snook, welcome in. Good to see you. But we'll talk about some highs. We'll talk about some lows. We'll talk about different things. Jeannie's here too. What's up, Jeannie? Welcome in. And everybody, please hit the like button. Good to have all of you in here. We got... I don't know how many are in here at the moment. Let me refresh this screen. Oh, we got 10 watching already. Thanks, gang. Good to have all of you here. But let's talk about some of the highs. Obviously, some of the highs is Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson's had a great first half. You know, starting American League shortstop in the All-Star game. He's putting up MVP type numbers in the leadoff spot at that. 28 home runs, 64, 65 RBIs. He's batting .290. His defense at shortstop's been stellar. He's been. I mean, he's had his moments with his throwing that could be better. He's thrown some balls away that's cost the Orioles, but I think for the most part he's done excellent. He's been excellent. So he's been a big plus. Adley Rutschman, again, another consistent player. that has been a big help to the Orioles. They've had their moments, obviously June. Mike Beachman, welcome in. June was a big month for the Orioles. They had 60 home runs in that month. They really weathered a tough June schedule. Corbin Burns, of course, has been everything we've expected him to be, which is great. And that was pretty awesome. Hold on one second, gang. Just got to check something. But no, there's been a lot of positives. Sorry about that. A lot of positives for the Orioles that were really good. Corbin Burns again. Bradish and those guys when we had them did really well. I actually, be honest with you, I think Craig Kimbrell has been an actual positive for the Orioles this year. I really do. I know he blew the save yesterday against the Yankees, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here. But he had a 2-month stretch there where he didn't give up anything. I think he's actually been really good for the Orioles this year. Again, when you try to compare him to what Felix Bautista did last year, I think it's kind of an unfair comparison. What Bautista did last year, nobody could have matched. He was just absolutely dominant. So, that's just my opinion. I think it was kind of an unfair comparison to anybody that puts him up there. Yes, absolutely. Corbin Burns is the American League starting pitcher tomorrow night. So the Orioles got 3 starters tomorrow. They got Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, and Corbin Burns starting the game, which is fantastic. Of course, Jordan Westburg's been a nice surprise as well. Wasn't really sure what we were going to get out of Jordan Westburg in this first half of the season. He had an okay, he was called up late last year and he did okay, but he's been an actual real big contributor to this team. He's been struggling lately. I think the break, I'm hoping is going to be a big plus for him, but he was a big surprise and a big help. I think Colton Cowser, who got off to a torrid start, was good early. He's been struggling a lot lately as well. The Orioles have had their positives for sure. I do want to talk a little bit about the negatives, obviously, that really have to be discussed. First and foremost, all the injuries. I think the big one was Kyle Bradish. Bradish, obviously, in the first half going down for the whole year, was a big loss. Tyler Wells, John Means, to me, we didn't know what we were going to get from them anyway. I don't know that they were real major contributors. They weren't Tyler Wells was last year for a bit, but he was nothing more than a number 5 starter at best this year. And John Means, we didn't even really have him at all last year and very little this year. So losing Means, God bless him, I like him. It really wasn't a loss. And the same with Tyler Wells. Other than depth, I didn't think it was a major issue. But that was just my opinion on those guys. But the Bradish loss was a big one. But I got to, there's a lot of other things. You can go into Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson has been up and down. He's had some really good starts, and he's had some clunkers. And that's been a problem for the Orioles in the first half. And they'll have to really change that in the second half. And anybody's got comments about that, please let me know. I want to hear from you guys what you think about, the first half for the Orioles. But Grayson's been up and down. He's had some really good starts, and he's had some other starts where he just had some clunkers. But the rest of the staff, other than Burns and Grayson Rodriguez, mediocre at best. I'm sorry. Just mediocre at best. Albert Suarez, Cole Irvin's been terrible. Cade Povich was meh at best. They just haven't. Dean Kramer's been up and down. He's too inconsistent for me. And these guys, when they get hit hard, and that's a problem. We've had moments where Burns hasn't been his best, but even at not his best, he keeps us. He keeps us in games. These guys, when they're not on their game, they can't keep us in ball games most of the time. They're giving up 6, 7, 8 runs in 3, 4 innings, and just like that, you're behind the 8 ball. That's got to be something that the Orioles address in the second half. So the rest of the rotation been up and down. It's been mediocre at best to me. The bullpen has been up and down as well. Very, very mediocre. I can't say mediocre. They've still been pretty good, but they've been inconsistent. They've been blowing a lot of leads. They've been giving up a lot of runs, and that's a worry for me. Especially when you start talking about playoff times. You need shutdown guys that can come in the games and you can rely on them as being those guys that are going to shut down the opposition. I don't know that the Orioles really have that right now. That one guy that when he comes into the game, I can honestly say, we're good. We're good. We're good for this inning at least. I can't find that guy. Danny Coulombe was the guy. Obviously last year when Cano came into the game last year, lights out. You knew it. Here he comes. He was great. I don't see that we have that guy. We just don't. I'll give you an example. Mason Miller for Oakland. When he comes into the game, it's lights out. He's more than likely going to he's going to do really well. He's going to dominate. And we just don't have that guy right now. But that's just from what I've seen. And again, we're still talking about the first half of the season. But let's get into... That's talking about pitching. I got to talk about the first half hitting. We gave kudos to Gunnar and Jordan Westberg and Adley Rutschman. But, we've had some veteran players on this team. And I'm going to get to this last homestand in a little bit. But we've had some veterans on this team that have really struggled this year. And it's been something that has really, I think, kept the Orioles from running away with this division. Victor said, I still think the Orioles are going to have a great second half. I hope so, Victor. I don't know anymore. Been too much inconsistency for me to really say whether they are or are not going to do well in the second half. Last year, they were so consistent all year long. They never had big losing streaks. I think the most they lost was 4 in a row, and I think that only happened once. They were consistent, and that's all I asked for. This year's been so up and down and so inconsistent with the way they've played that it's hard for me to really gauge the second half, but I will. But when we talk about the hitting, Jeff says, I think it's becoming clear that you are going to have to deal for another stud starting pitcher. I'm going to get into that, Jeff, in a little bit. Okay, I actually have something I want to discuss on that. Back to the hitting. I think the Orioles have had a lot of their veteran leadership. Hopefully has done well inside the clubhouse as veteran leadership. Because for the most part, the veteran hitters on this team have been a disappointment this year. Whether it be a Cedric Mullins, who's hitting like 212, whether it be an Austin Hayes, who was just horrendous in the first half, batting like 190. He finally has gotten a little bit better. He's hitting for no power. He's got 3 home runs. He's hitting like 260 now, but he was literally no help for the first, for March, April, May, and into June. He was basically no help. Then you got Anthony Santander, who has done nothing. If he doesn't hit a home run, he doesn't do anything. He's batting like 235. I don't know how he's an all-star. I don't think he's an all-star, but he was given the nod. Then you've got Jorge Mateo, who's batting like 225. He doesn't steal bases anymore, hardly, because he can't get on base. And his defense has been average. It's been good, but it hasn't been a stellar. And then you got Ramon Arias, who's been basically non-existent as a hitter, and his defense hasn't been as good as it's been in the past. And last but not least, James McCann, who's batting like 218 on the season, who defensively is fine. He calls a good game and can handle the pitchers, but he's a liability at the plate. He gives very little to no help at the plate. And I don't mean to be the bad guy here, but I try not to drink the Kool-Aid with the O's. I love the O's more than anything else in this world. But I have to tell it like I see it. And there are holes on this team that they've got to shore up. Look, nobody has a stack line. Nobody has an all-star lineup like we're going to see tomorrow night, 1-9. I get it. But there are other possibilities that the Orioles have, other options that I feel they have that could be as equal or maybe even an upgrade to what we see. The only difference is youth compared to veterans. Experience. Youth compared to experience. That's the only difference I see. Because if you're going to tell me right now that Connor Norby can't come up and hit 225 like Jorge Mateo and play just as good defense at second base and hit just the same, what he can do that. He can do exactly what Mateo's doing. And the speed factor to me makes no difference if Mateo can't get on base. So that's, again, just my opinion. Victor says, do you think they trade Santander, get something in return before they may lose him next year? Victor, that's a good question. He is such a likable guy inside the clubhouse that I think it would be almost impossible. Plus, they really need that switch hitter, a guy that can hit home runs and is a switch hitter, that long ball threat from both sides of the plate. I don't see it happening. No. I do feel he'll leave at the end of the season. I don't feel the Orioles will offer him a contract, or at least not one better than somebody else will offer him. But no, he's not being traded. Jeff says Santander doesn't hold much value. No, he doesn't. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. That's exactly right, Jeff. Teams want the O's kids. They want our young players. They don't want Santander. Why trade for him when at the end of the season you can probably just get him if you want him that bad? Just wait 2 months, and at the end of the season he's going to be a free agent and you can go after him then. So no, they wouldn't trade for a guy that they can just get at the end of the season, Anyway, but I want to go back to the hitting. We talked about how up and down the hitting's been. Look, in June they were fantastic for hitting the home runs. They hit 60 home runs in the month of June. It was like the second most all time by a team, which is great. But they got homer happy. This team cannot drive in runs other than from the home run. I mean, yesterday they got very lucky in the 9th inning of that game yesterday against the Yankees. Okay? They did. I'm sorry. You say what you want. I love my Orioles, but I'm going to tell it like it is. Volpe, routine ground ball to shortstop, he botches it. That's why 1 run scores. It scores off of an error. And then the fly ball to left field by Mullins, Verdugo totally misplayed the ball. It should have been a routine fly ball to left field that he misplays. He steps in when he should have stepped back, and then he lost his balance. Ball's over his head, game's over. The Orioles win. It's a gift double, and it's a gift win for the Orioles. You can't play like that and expect to win like that in the playoffs. They got lucky, and we'll take it. A win's a win, but you can't play like that. That last home series, when they played the Cubs and the Yankees, a series where they got to win probably 4 out of 6, and they should win 4 out of 6, in my opinion. They should win both series. They went 1-5. They got swept by the Cubs at home, scored 2 runs in the entire series against the Cubs, and then almost got swept by the Yankees. And got a gift at the end of the 9th inning before they even could pull that game out. They went something like 2 for 38 with runners in scoring position. And one of the 2 hits was the Mullins double that was misplayed by Verdugo. They gave him a double. I wouldn't have gave him a double, but, So they did nothing offensively other than the home runs. Because up to the 9th inning, they got 3 runs scored. 2 of them off of the home run by Henderson, and 1 of them off of the home run by Santander. They can't score runs any other way, and their runners in scoring position has been horrendous. That has to change in the second half. How they do that, I don't know, but they've got to figure it out. Because they are really struggling when it comes to runners in scoring position. Great having everybody here. Wow, we got 16 likes already. That's amazing. Thanks, gang. But let me see if I can update that real fast, because I do want to do something with that. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, there's our like goal for the day. Do want to see if we can hit it. Hey, Cynthia Candy Mom, our first member. There she is. Well, first member on the other channel. Anyway, so lots of work for the Orioles to do in the second half when it comes to trying to find ways of scoring runs other than via the home run. Hopefully they do. They'll have to figure that out, and hopefully that's going to be roster changes. They may have to really take a step back and say, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. They may have to do that. That may be something that they're going to have to look into. But anyway, first half's over. If I have to give the Orioles a letter grade from A down to F for the first half, I got to give them a B. Okay, I'm not going to give them anything lower than a B. They're in first place. They have like the second best record in the American League. They're percentage points behind Cleveland for the best record in the American League. They had, until this series against the Yankees, they hadn't lost a series against an AL East opponent all season. And for like the last 23 series, they have been doing it. So I can't give them anything lower than a B, but I can't give them an A. there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of improvement that this team has and needs to do to stay on top as an American League East winner. The other issue is there's a lot of holes in this lineup, and I think that they're being exploited in a lot of ways. There's a lot of guys, when they step to the plate, I don't have confidence that they're going to get a hit. There's only 3, maybe 4 guys that when they come to the plate, I think, okay, we're going to do good here. Self-witness, welcome in. He says, I know it's not popular to say this, but our middle of the order, with the exception of O'Hearn, has reached their ceiling. See, I self-witness, I disagree. Well, I guess it depends what you mean by the middle of the order. Because Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman are in the prime. They haven't even hit their prime yet. I think they're going to continue to do better. Ryan Mountcastle, I agree. He has hit his peak. His power numbers have gone down. He's not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Anthony Santander, that's all he does is hit it out of the ballpark. But I got to be honest with you, self-witness. I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan O'Hearn either. He can't hit lefties at all. So he becomes a one-dimensional player that can only play against righties. And he's not long for this team. I think he's hit his ceiling too, personally. I don't think he's any better than what we see right now. He's a left-handed specialist who's going to face a lot of righties, and he's going to hit his fair share of home runs. But he's not going to hit 290. And if he does, it's only because he just hasn't accumulated enough at bats to lower the average. I like O'Hearn, but I don't think O'Hearn's long for this team. If he's a free agent at the end of the season, which I'm not sure if he is or not, but if he is, I don't see the Orioles re-signing him. They don't need to. They have Kobe Mayo. They have Heston Kjerstad. They have Kyle Stowers. They have other guys that can do what O'Hearn does. Yeah, no, it's tough. I figured you meant 3, 4, 5 guys for sure. 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. Even Westberg, I think Westberg hasn't hit his... I don't think he's hit his peak yet either. But no, I do. Self-witness, I agree 100%. I think both Santander and Mountcastle, I think their best days are, I hate to say it, but I think they might be behind them. Mountcastle has become, if you look at his numbers over the course of his seasons with the Orioles, they have progressively gone down. And it's unfortunate. Good player defensively at first base, but he doesn't hit home runs anymore. And he's a pull-happy hitter. And at Oriole Park, you saw it yesterday. He had a couple balls that hit to the warning track. He's a warning track power guy now. He can't put the ball out of the ballpark anymore. And he doesn't go up the middle. And he doesn't, with the ball. So, yeah, he's going to struggle to be an impact player. Same with Santander. Mark says, my chat was not rolling. Okay, good. Yeah, everybody's saying hello to everybody. Good. But, yeah, again, I think the Orioles, they're in a prime position to make a run at the American League East title. Why not? They're in first place. They got a 1-game lead. They got to go out here in this second half. They got to get off to a good start. And they gotta go do it. It's just that simple. They've got to find ways to score runs and become a team. I'm going to pull something up here. I'm going to go over some numbers with you here in a minute. That becomes less than one-dimensional. Just 1 second for me here. I'm just pulling something up for you guys because I want to go over. I now want to go over the second half of the season for the Orioles and what I think is coming for them. Now they'll, of course, again, no baseball. Regular season baseball until Friday. Tonight's the Home Run Derby. Tomorrow's the All-Star Game. Wednesday and Thursday, everybody's off. Nobody plays. Friday, the Orioles start a 3-game set in Texas. And then 3 games against Texas, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then they're off Monday. And then they have 3 games against the Marlins. So that's 6 games right there that the Orioles should win at least 4 out of the 6. I know they're on the road, but these are 2 teams that are very beatable. Then they come home to San Diego and Toronto. Again, 2 teams that are very beatable. And I think the Orioles now got to win 4 out of 6 there. And then they have August. They have a 4-game set in Cleveland, which is going to be a big series. And then a 3-game set in Toronto and Tampa Bay. So they've got some games coming up that are going to be difficult for sure. And that's in the second half. But I think they'll be fine. Westberg will be even better. I agree with you on him and all the young. Yeah, I think the young guys they're nowhere near their ceiling just yet. But anyway, that's my grade on the first half. I think it's a B. It's certainly not an A, but they're doing well. For all the things that have gone wrong, they have at least held on to their lead. Nomadic Brian, what's up, buddy? Welcome, and good schedule to start second half up to the O's. I agree. I think that their schedule is favorable. Texas and Miami are very beatable teams. San Diego and Toronto are very beatable teams. I agree. They can go in there and they can win all 4 of those series. Jeff says, 2 weeks to the deadline. You're the GM, Walt. What moves are you making, if any? Walt, did either of your boys ever play ball? Cynthia, they did. Very little, though. They played basketball. I played tons of baseball as a child, all the way up to high school. And then I played softball for many years. I coached baseball for a couple seasons. It's my passion. I did coach both of my boys in basketball for 10 years, but I only did that for them. But my passion is baseball. I follow it very, very closely. Very closely. I'm not the casual fan. Like, I would go to the game, Cynthia, with Walter, and we would sit there and we'd watch the game, and I would coach the game with him. I would say to him when a man was on first, what do you do here, Walt? Do you pitch out? Are you going to throw over? When's he going to run? What pitch would you run on? Look where the shortstop's positioned compared to the hitter. See how he's more up the middle for a lefty instead of being a little bit more in the hole for a righty. Watch. Let's see who covers the bag at second. Who's covering? We would go and we would talk about that. And that's just my passion, is this game. But, Jeff, I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about trade deadline and what I feel the Orioles will or should do. Before I do that, though, I want to talk about tonight's home run derby. I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to predict Gunner's going to win the home run derby tonight. I probably won't watch it. I probably won't follow it. I really don't like it. I think it's fine, but it's not anything that I really care about. But I'm going to go with Gunner. I think with the way they have it set up this year, I like his chances of winning it. He's a real good hitter. Lots of raw power, and I'm going to take Gunner to win the home run derby tonight. What's up, Chris? Disney Baker, welcome in, bud. Chris, I got to tell you, I don't think it was a great game yesterday. I think it was a terrible game that we absolutely got lucky winning, to be honest. A great game is when they played really well and they win 5-0. The pitcher pitches. The pitching staff is a shutout. They get timely hits, and they win the game. That's a great game to me. Yesterday they were very lucky to win that game yesterday. Just my opinion. Winner. I agree. Win's a win. If they win the division by 1 game, they'll remember that game. I'm with you. Jeff, I heard that the Derby is going to be a little bit different this year. I had heard that the Derby was going to be less. That they weren't going to run it the way they used to run it. Chris Disney Baker's in here. Chris Slemmer's in here. Just got done dinner. Chris, no problem at all, buddy. Yeah, I heard, Jeff, that the Derby was going to be a little bit different this year. That it wasn't going to quite be the same. That was going to make it go quicker. But we'll see. But anyway, so that's my pick. I'm going to pick Gunner tonight. So I want to get on to the second half of the season. Out at dinner. Ta-ta for now. All right, Chris, have a good night, buddy. Thanks for stopping in and saying hi. Second half for the Orioles. So let's kind of get into this. We'll do some predictions first and foremost as to what we think is going to happen in the second half. And I think if anybody's been watching across Major League Baseball, and if you're watching any of the local channels, if you go on Mass and you read any of Rock Kabaka's articles, or Steve Molesky, or Ryan Ripken's got a nice channel on YouTube talking about the Orioles. Cal Ripken's son, Ryan Ripken. I watch a little bit of his stuff. But I think we're all in agreement that I totally understand and think that the second half, the Orioles, on Friday, when they have their series opening, I'm going out on a limb, that Friday night, the Orioles will announce Thursday or Friday morning, they're going to announce Kobe Mayo's getting called up to the Major Leagues. I think he's going to start the second half on the Orioles roster. I do. I think that they're going to do it. I really think that Kobe Mayo, who's just been lights out in the minor leagues, is going to get the call this week, and he's going to be in the Major Leagues. So that's my big prediction. I think Kobe Mayo gets called up Friday. That's what I'm saying right now. I'm probably wrong, but I'm predicting it. I'm going out on a limb here. But I'm also going to tell you guys that within the month of July, before July is over, I think that Jackson Holiday is also going to get the call and be brought back up. I do. I have a feeling that the Orioles want to inject some excitement back into this. I think they want to inject more youth and give these guys a shot. And I think there are plenty of guys. I can name. I've been on this bandwagon since February. I can think of 2 guys that both of them can replace right now. But I won't say their names again. I'm sure you all know who they are. Release Mateo and release Arias. Chris, that's who. I will say it again. I'm sorry, folks. I just don't understand the value of these 2 guys. Defensively, they're fine. But they are not Brooks Robinson and Bobby Grich. They're not. They're not. They're just not. I'm sorry. They're not. They're fine defensive players, but they are liabilities offensively. You'll get a game here and there where Mateo will get a couple hits. He might steal a base. Maybe. Now, Chris, I don't see them getting rid of Austin Hayes. I just don't. I mean, and not only that, to his credit, he's been much better the last month. He really has. If you told me to pick between him and Mullins, I'll say Mullins. I think Mullins has been horrible. Absolutely horrible. Cowser can go play center field like Mullins can. Maybe not as good defensively, but he's a good defensive center fielder. He's hitting the same as him. Put Cowser out there. But anyway, that's my opinion. Yeah, I don't understand the appeal of Mateo so much. I just don't understand it. I understand he's got exceptional speed, but I don't see where that speed has been a big value to the Orioles this year. As someone who watches almost every game, I just don't see where that's been a value. Just hasn't. And everybody's like, well, you need that speed guy, in the playoffs. Okay, if you say so. I'm for making room for the prospects. Why wait? I agree Mullins has no arm either. Right, yeah, that's the other thing too, Chris. Mullins doesn't have an arm. Look, I don't want to have too many guys on this roster that are young with little experience, because come playoff time, you want guys with experience. Rutschman, Gunnar, even Kerstad, McCann, Burns, Mountcastle now, Mullins now, Hayes now, Santander now. All those guys now have playoff experience. They've been there. They've done it. It won't be something brand new to them anymore. So I don't want to inject 3, 4, 5 more new guys into this who have never been to the playoffs, because then you fall back into that, well, they've never been there. You want guys with a little bit of experience. But I think this is what we need to do. We need to give some of these other kids an opportunity to play. Just my opinion. Or, if you're not gonna, we're gonna get into it now, Jeff. If you're not gonna call these guys up, then you need to make a trade for a pitcher. But let's get into that. So Jeff asked me earlier, Walt, you're the GM. What are you doing? Self-Witness says, you're right. The infield has to change. Sometimes I think it's that old 2022 mentality still hanging around. Sometimes I think so too, Self-Witness. I really do. I think the same thing. I think there are times when the Orioles are being overly loyal to some of these players instead of looking at the big picture and saying, look, thank you, but we're moving on. It's just that simple. But anyway, so if I'm the Orioles and I have to sit back and I say to myself, I'm the GM, what am I doing? I got to be honest with you, folks. First and foremost, let's take a step back. You've got to have a partner. Okay? Any and all trades. You can want to trade all you want, but you've got to have someone willing to trade in return. That's the first thing. Everybody keeps talking about Garrett Crochet and Fetty and all these guys are available. I don't know that. I don't know what Chicago is willing to do. Are they really willing to give up on Garrett Crochet even though they've got 2 more years of control? They want to give up on him? You know, a guy that's a proven commodity? Wouldn't you want to build around him and try to? I don't believe that just yet. So what I'm getting at is there will not be a super stud starting pitcher available. I just don't see it. There are too many teams that are still in the running to make a playoff push and make it to the point where they're not going to look back and say, hey, we're out of it, we're trading guys away. I just don't see it. Who is really going to do that? Who's Lazard? You're not going to do anything with Miami. Luzardo's out for the season. Again, Garrett Crochet, I don't know that they're willing to give him up. We'll see. Maybe they will. Brian says, and develop these guys to hit for the average. We got enough home run guys. I agree. You know, I think that's part of it too. Oh man, there's so much to talk about with the Orioles. But anyway, let me talk about trades for a minute here. I do not give up a Heston Kjerstad. I'm sorry. Jackson Holiday, no. Kobe Mayo, no. Connor Norby, maybe if you're getting a stud pitcher. I'm sorry. I think the Orioles are gonna. It's not going to be a big splash. I don't think they're going to make a big splash. I don't. They are going to go out and they're going to get a second-tier pitcher, and they're going to say, we're going to ride with Burns and Grayson as my 1 and 2 guys, and then we've got these guys to fill in. Because first off, in a short series, you really only need 2 awesome guys and 1 other pretty good guy to win. You really do. I'll give you an example. Look at Texas last year. Texas, the Rangers, made the playoffs on the last day of the regular season. We talked about this before. They don't make the playoffs last year if they don't win on the last day of the regular season. They don't even make the playoffs. They make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, Jordan Montgomery gets hot, pitching-wise. Evan Carter, I think is his name, the rookie kid, gets hot. Corey Seager gets hot, and they go on a run and they win the World Series. Look at Jordan Montgomery's ERA now. He's over 6. He's horrible this year. He's horrible. All you need is to get hot at the right time, and you will win. There were teams last year that had awesome pitching staffs. Look at the Dodgers. Look at the Braves. Did they win? No, they didn't win. Getting a starting pitcher, a stud starting pitcher, does not guarantee you're going to win the World Series. You still got to get hot. And you can get hot with average starting pitching and win. Texas proved that last year. Now, is that a one-off? I don't think so. Look at all the years. All the years Atlanta had the best pitching staff in baseball by far. Smoltz, Glavine, Avery, Maddox, Denny Nagel. They had tons of starting pitching. And how many World Series did they win? They won 1 in 14 years. 1. So you can win without having 4 or 5 awesome pitchers. It can happen. What about Tyler Anderson, not super stud, but gives solid outings? Jeff says they have indicated Crochet, Fetty, Lewis, Roberts as well, all available. But yes, they are right. Exactly, Jeff. That's why I always say saying they're available and actually being available are 2 different things. Because look at Milwaukee. Milwaukee said, yes, we're looking. Burns is available. Possibly for a trade. He's at the end of his. He's in his final year of a contract. We're looking to possibly move him. They were serious because they moved him. And they didn't ask for much back. They got DL Hall, who I don't even think has pitched much this year at all. And they got Joey Ortiz, who's been pretty good. But they can say these guys are available. But when they want this, when they want your top 3 prospects, those guys really aren't available. They can't be. Because you got to know that those teams are not going to give up those. Those teams are not going to give up those prospects for that guy. So is he really available? That's the thing. Brian says, I'm okay with a minimal trade now in the offseason to address the big deals. Yeah, exactly. I just think that I don't want a guy, if I'm getting a 2-month rental, I'm not giving up much. I think we all know that. I think we all know that if the Orioles get a 2-month rental, that it's less they have to give up to get him. It may only take a Judd Fabian. It may only take a Daniel Johnson, the other outfielder. It may only take one guy like that. It may only take a Kyle Stowers to pull off a minimal trade for a starting pitcher. Like, is there going to be a reunion with a Kyle Gibson? Probably not, because St. Louis is in the running now. And everybody talked about possibly Jack Flaherty coming back. I know my father would hate that, but they say he's been better this year. Do they try to get him back? And that won't cost as much. I don't know. I just don't see the Orioles coming out with a big trade. I just don't. I don't think that he's willing. But maybe, when you look at last night's draft, they drafted another shortstop. They drafted another outfielder. So maybe they are looking to move some of these guys in the hopes that these new guys that they just drafted will come into the picture down the road. And they did draft college players, guys that are not, they're not prep players. They're not, they're not high schoolers. These are college kids who are going to be more polished and a little bit closer to the major leagues. So maybe they are looking to get rid of some of these players they have now, and they can replenish with the draft. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe that's what they'll look at when it comes to time. But second half for the Orioles, again, I think Mayo and Holiday are going to make their presence known in this lineup. I really do. I think a couple of guys that we've known for a while may be DFA'd or may be optioned down to the minor leagues, and we probably won't see them again. I think the Orioles do make a trade or two. I think they make a trade for a reliever to help shore up the bullpen a little bit. But I think whatever trade they make for a starting pitcher, I think it'll be a minimal one. I think it'll be like a number 3 or number 4 guy or something like that. There are very little to no studs on the market. And the other thing with Garrett Crochet, too, is, at least with him, innings are going to be an issue. He's already at 100 innings, and I think the most he's ever pitched is like 95, 96. So how do you do that? You're going to have to limit his innings. So how effective is he really going to be for the Orioles if he's not out there every 5th day? No pitchers in the draft. Does that mean the O's are okay dealing and signing pitchers? Maybe. Brian, I think so. I think that's one thing that Mike Elias has made known, is that he is not a guy that in the first or second round seems to draft pitching. He always goes with what's best available. And in their mind, it's always been position players, and he did it again this year. So, I guess they expect to sign some pitching in the offseason. I guess they're hoping to get Bradish back at some point in the end of the first half or second half and see how it goes from there. But, the Orioles are going to have major issues with their starting rotation next year if they don't re-sign Corbin Burns. I really think that's going to be an issue. If you can re-sign him and you have Grayson, you've already got your 1 and 2 guys lined up, and you're already golden. Just from there, you're golden. You got 2 guys that you're ready to go. From there, you can find a legitimate number 3, and 4 and 5, you can find guys that are just adequate. And we'll get by and give you your good starts and give you your bad starts, and at least eat up some innings. So we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, that's my predictions in the second half. I still think the Orioles have a really good chance of winning the division. But it just became a lot harder with the way they've been playing lately. They've got to find ways to score runs with runners in scoring position. This team has forgotten how to play baseball. Every single game, it seems like they're home run derby. Got to hit it out of the park. Got to hit it out of the park. They're over-swinging so much. They're swinging at the first pitch a ton. Why do you swing at the first pitch? Take a pitch. Take a pitch. Gunnar Henderson, I love Gunnar. He may be my favorite player on the Orioles, him or Adley. But he frustrates the heck out of me. As a leadoff hitter, first pitch of the game, he's swinging. Ground ball out. So just like that, 1 pitch, 1 out. Just like that. You've done him a favor. Now, me personally, I think that's on Brandon Hyde. Gunnar Henderson is not a leadoff hitter. He's not. He's a number 3, number 4 hitter in this lineup. Period. He should not be leading off. There are other guys who can do it. Put Jordan Westburg up there and leave him there. Put Adley Rutschman there for now. Jason Kendall did it for years with the Pirates. Put Adley Rutschman there. Rutschman takes pitches. He goes deep in counts. He walks. He's not a big strikeout guy. He does make contact. He does have some power. He's got a good eye. His on-base percentage is high. Why not do him? Put him there. Gunnar Henderson is not a leadoff hitter, period. He is your only real legitimate home run RBI threat who is going to hit the ball and get on base too. And they have him in the leadoff position. I just don't understand it. Brian says it's time for the Orioles to take it. That is all. Yes, I hope so. Have an idea and have some situational awareness. Right, exactly. You got to have an idea. Count awareness is important too. When you get behind in the count 0-2, borderline pitches you got to be swinging at. Foul it off. Live to the next pitch. We saw that in the ninth inning on yesterday. Gunnar Henderson, God bless him, comes up in the ninth inning with 2 men on. 2 strikes, ball low and away. It's a borderline pitch. He takes it for strike 3. Just put the bat on the ball. Foul it off. Live to the next pitch. You can't let those kind of pitches go. And he's not the only one. Other guys were doing it too. Just my opinion. He sees how Schwarber plays in Philly, and he's going with that. Yeah, but even Kyle Schwarber, Chris, what's Kyle Schwarber batting as a hitter this year? You know, Schwarber's not same thing. He's not a guy that should be batting leadoff. He's just not. I'm sorry. I don't see it. He's not a guy. He's batting .249. His on-base percentage is .376. That's good. That's not bad at all. So he's getting on base. He must be walking a lot. He must be walking because .249 is not good. He's got 65 walks. That's not bad. But anyway, yeah, that's my opinion on the Orioles. I do think that they have a legitimate chance of winning the East. I think it'll come down to the wire. That next to last series against the Yankees is going to be a huge series in September in New York at that. So I'm hoping the Orioles have at least a 2-game lead going into that series so that they have some room for margin for error. But we'll see. But anyway, folks, that's it. That's our show. A B for the first half for the Orioles. I'm hoping the second half is at least a B or an A so that they can win this division. Look for some changes. Trade deadline. We'll talk more and more about it as we get closer. I think it's going to be a fun second half. I think it's going to be a stressful. I think it's definitely going to be a stressful second half. But I think it's going to be a fun one too. Look, it could be a lot worse. We could be 25 games under 500 and 40 games out of first place like we were just a few years ago. Hey, we're in it. We have a shot. We're in first place. Things are looking good for the Orioles. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back. Got a new video coming out tomorrow. I'm going to be listing my greatest. It's funny, we just had a Yankee series. It's my top 10 greatest New York Yankees of all time. It'll post tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Of course, Thursday and Friday, you'll have your Hall of Fame profiles. Don't forget to check them out. No game Wednesday night because there is no game Wednesday night, but we'll be back next Wednesday, the 24th. Orioles at the Marlins, so we'll be there to call that game. Thanks for joining me, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed bringing it to you. Enjoy the Home Run Derby tonight and the All-Star game tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until next time, keep rooting for the O's and take care of yourselves and each other. Bye, gang. Have a great night.